So everybody, welcome to the Pot My Tea podcast. Today we're interviewing Harry Dennison, who we go back quite a long time. We've actually done a couple of seasons in Iron Apple together, which were eventful to say the least. But after that, obviously everybody just goes home to their own little towns, and then you kind of keep in touch here and there. But it's been a long time, and actually you've made some huge steps, like in the property market, in your investments. And like I know you're running, or you bought a pub, so it's like
Yeah,
things are going kind of extreme, I suppose. Like I feel like I just got a job. I just work for a company. You know what I mean? Like I just done the most
yeah.
boring stuff you could possibly do. But yeah, I mean, if you want to, I think we'll probably go into your first investment because I feel like that's going to be maybe where you learned a bit more, if you had any pitfalls while you were, because you had refurbishments, did you?
Yeah, so um well, first of all, mate, thank you so much for having me on. I sort of stumbled on what you were doing on Instagram, and just instantly I was like, oh, just like obviously not spoke to you for years, to be
Yeah,
honest. Like,
yeah.
but checked in a few times. You nearly come to stay with us once because you were going to a festival down the road, but
Oh
that
yes,
that didn't
aye.
that didn't quite work out, did it? But yeah, no. First of all, obviously, just thanks for having us on. My my interest in property when I moved down to Hertfordshire just after we got back from Iron Apple. This is obviously like 10 years ago. Um,
Oh, that is
yeah,
nuts. I can't believe
scary,
it's
isn't
that
it?
long ago.
I was in sales, and I remember sitting there and going, "I want to sell houses." I always had a passion for property and architecture and stuff like that. I grew up in a really old building, etc. And I got into selling houses. I worked in London for 2 years, which was like the worst experience ever, to be honest. Like I was driving 2-3 hours. Like you're working with these London estate agents. I mean, everyone's got a judgment of estate agents. Like you're bang on. Like everyone's lying. Like the offers aren't
Yeah.
what they say they are. Like to tell you a quick story on it, we had a property on the market, and I had an offer. It was 500,000. It was like a flat or something ridiculous, a
Oh my
fortune.
God.
Yeah. And I had an offer of 500,000. And I'll tell you what happened. My manager got an offer of 490,000. And this was my first ever deal as an estate agent. And I'd been working so hard to try and obviously piece things together and sell some properties. His buyer was an investment buyer, and my buyer was a first time buyer. I got a £500,000 offer, so £10,000 above it. And when he delivered that offer to the vendor, like to run you through the conversation, so this you've got to be really, really careful because anyone who's watching this who's dealt with estate agents, you will maybe hear this sort of terminology. And like getting into estate agency was probably one of the best decisions I've ever done because I learnt so much about the insights and negotiating and stuff like that and how it works and properties time on the market. But the manager put the offer forward in such a way, so he said, right, we've got two offers. So then I said, "Oh, brilliant! It's obviously he's going to sell his property. He's excited." And I was sat with this manager, and he says, "I'll run you through the different buyers, and we'll run through their positions, what they've got, etc. How secure they are, and blah blah blah." So he said, "Right. So the first offer, it's high risk."
Hey, God. You know what's
And I
coming.
was sat there, and I was like, "What? These are just like first time buyers, like nice, really professional people earning 200 grand a year between them, like amazing, like really polite and everything else." And yeah, and he was like, it's high risk, okay? Now they're first time buyers. Obviously, these tend to be the people that when they're buying have wobbles, pull out of transactions, stuff like, and delivered this with no positivity. He
Yeah.
said the offer's £500,000. He then went and said the the other offer is, I've actually got this bloke on Facebook, so if he watches this, he'll know. It just went through my head. Then I was like, oh god. But the other offer is from an investor, Who we know, he's bought a lot of properties, etc. Like, he's really good for it. The deposit's going to be about 50% of the purchase. He's going to be renting the property out. You know, they know what they're doing. They've got 4 or 5 properties in the area, and that's 490,000. So although lower, far more secure, and in the grand scheme of things, what's £10,000? What did the
Oh
vendor
my
do?
God.
Obviously, he went for the 490,000. And like in a state agency, you won't believe how much of this is going on and manipulation. You, as an owner of a property, have to sort of be able to navigate the lies. Like, the estate agent is working for themselves. I don't care what anyone says. They just care about the deal
The
that is put in
commission.
front of them. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I, as an estate agent, always held my head up and I always did my best for the vendors and stuff like that. But the amount of people, especially in London, that are just doing what they're doing for their own commission. So that's where I sort of generated a really sort of strong interest in property. I think my first investment, and this is going to sound really cliche, and this is what sort of got me excited with you, if you like, because it all starts with what you invest in yourself, not
Yeah.
not in terms of monetary value. But yeah, that journey for me, when I was an estate agent in London, I instantly dreamt of buying properties, building a portfolio as such, and moving forward. When I came out of London and we moved to Lincolnshire, which we'll probably go through in more detail, I think the very first thing I ever bought was cryptocurrency, like the
Right. Yeah.
first asset. So I bought a house, but the first investment, the first uh, like conscious decision to invest my savings into something was crypto, um, and that was all like when lockdown hit. I work in hospitality. I've got a pub, hotel, 7 rooms. I don't really never know how to sort of describe it, to be honest. So it's a restaurant with 7 rooms in Lincolnshire. And when we got shut down in COVID, I just continuously learn about cryptocurrency. I decided to start putting money into various different things. Luckily for me, absolutely everything I bought, maybe not so much now, but pretty much everything I've bought has gone up in value considerably. So I've sort of built up and I sort of see that as my security blanket.
Yeah.
Whilst I've got that behind me, I I probably take a few more risks. Like we're looking at expanding, buying another pub. I think the hospitality industry is at the worst it's ever been. Buying another pub basically when pretty much everyone I know who's works in hospitality is getting out of it. So I don't know if it's the right decision to make. I always think that when when there's a saying in investing, and when the market's red, that's when you buy.
Yeah.
So pubs around here they are way cheaper than houses. So to put it into
Really?
perspective, there's a pub around the corner which is 4 bedrooms, flat above it. You've got a 60, 70 seater restaurant, kitchen, sits on about an acre and a half, and it's 270,000.
God, your area as well. That is absolutely insane.
And some of the houses would be that same. If obviously it's a pub, but if you turn it into a house and had that same plot, you'd be looking at 600.
Well, why
Um,
can't you? Well, so pubs can be turned into residentials under permitted development, anyways. Can you not turn them all into flats, or turn it into a
um,
big house like a big B&B? Or
it's hard, right?
yeah,
Because I grew up in the hospitality industry, and I do genuinely care about it. Like
yeah,
I could have got out of this pretty much within a few years of getting in, and I've done it because I'm proud of what we're doing. It's hard work. I want people to have a nice pub to go to. To go out for dinner. We've got a play area outside. Obviously, you've been, haven't you? So it's
yeah,
a bit different since you last came. But when you're down in Peterborough, you've got to come in
for
definitely.
sure, for
Um,
sure.
but yeah, so I'm proud of what we've done here. So the idea of getting a pub and turning it into houses, like it's like someone
Mm,
turning a knife in me. I get it, like it's an investment thing, but there are plenty of opportunities out there, I believe. That being said, you know, some pubs are failing, and I do not believe that if you, no matter how much you spent on it, what you did, some of the locations around here, you're never going to be able to pick it up necessarily, or it's going to be extremely hard. So yeah, there is opportunities there. My opinion is that we can make more money by running a pub rather than investing it, and it's a steady income. So yeah, I mean, there's a chap, we viewed a pub a few weeks ago. He's got 3 now, and they're all closed. And I went to see one, and I sat there. He's obviously an extremely wealthy man. Like, he's not trading these pubs and holding on to them for a start.
Yeah.
And I sort of said, oh, he says, well, to be honest, he says, if no one buys it, I've got about 3 months left. He has to market it for so long before they can grant the planning permission to turn it into houses. So he is going to do exactly that, basically. So it is happening, yeah, but it is a bit sad when it does, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially if you grew up around it, like kind of, well, my granddad had a pub as well. But I suppose if the pubs aren't doing well and you say like it's maybe due to location things, then
Yeah.
maybe that is the best thing to do. I mean, the one round the corner, is that not a competition as well, for your own pub? I'm not trying to like convince you to do it, but
Yeah,
if it
yeah.
was, it could be a genuinely good investment, really.
A good avenue, yeah. No, definitely. So one of the more recent property investments we've made was it's on I don't know how well you know Lincoln, but there's a street called Steep Hill,
Right.
which is literally one of the most
Is
famous
it
streets
is
in
it
the.
on a
They took a while to think about the name. I mean, yeah, I mean, it'd be good if you could like put a snippet of the picture in because it is really, really steep.
Yeah.
It goes up to the cathedral basically, and that was a shop. So this is a great story again about a estate agency. So we went to view a house in Lincoln. It was a 2-bed, like mid terrace, nice character, old place. Like not the best investment, but a fantastic location. It was just off Steep Hill, Well Lane or something like that. I think they wanted 250,000 for it, which is obviously ridiculously expensive for
Yeah.
that style property. And we went to view that. It needed new kitchen, the bathrooms, probably replastering because it had all really old. It was still needing money spent on it basically. If we were thinking about just renting it out straight away, and we sort of walked around the corner and there was a for sale board on this Georgian shop basically, and I was like, I wonder what that's on at. And I was looking online, couldn't find it. Look at Rightmove, couldn't find it or anything. I rang them and they said, "Oh, it's for sale under commercial." So, which in hindsight should have been obvious. So I went on the commercial. There was one picture of the front of the property, nothing inside, no floor plan. I think the description said no parking, no access to the rear. There was something else which was like really negative. And it was on the market at 320,000. And it was a 4-bed, 3-story townhouse. So we've just seen a really, really small terrace house for 250. So for like 70,000, you're getting like way more and probably
Yeah.
still spending a fair amount of money on it. So anyway, we rang them up. We went to see it. It was pretty clear that they weren't selling this property anytime soon. They'd had it on the market for like 12 months or something like that. They'd had a buyer that had pulled out. It had, on the description, it said, oh no, sorry, on the viewing, we found out that there was permission to turn it into residential granted.
Oh my God.
And they weren't advertising it. So they weren't advertising as residential. They said all this negative stuff. When we were going through the process of purchasing it, we found out you could get a permit so you could park on the street, which is one street above.
Right.
The access at the back in the contract said the rear access across a steep hill is only to be used for goods and ashes.
Right.
So they'd written no access. And then my solicitor, I said, right, so let's just talk about this. And he said, well, Harry, define goods.
Yeah.
So I'm sat there
Bins?
like, yeah, brilliant. Goods is anything, I think. I think it was there in place for the shop. So technically, what they were trying to say is when we turn it to residential, there's no access. But it doesn't say ashes for the shop. So there's open fireplaces in the flat. So as far as I'm concerned, if the neighbour says anything, I'll have a bag of ashes in a bin bag. Every time I use it, I'll just carry them in. I go, yeah, ashes, mate. But I know it's ridiculous, but this has been put in place like 150 years ago or something ridiculous, 120 years ago, probably longer than that. And it states that we can use it. So that was a missell. The parking was a missell. They hadn't said anything about the permission. So I think we offered originally like 260.
Yeah.
I think we paid 270. So we got £50,000 off the asking price.
Unreal.
And they, genuinely, that wasn't us being cheeky. That was when we were speaking to them, and maybe a little bit cheeky. Estate agents taught me a lot about negotiating and where people are. When a property's empty, you're selling it, it's been on the market a while, no one is interested in it. And I think we're sort of halfway through the investment project now, and the valuation is looking like it'll be north of 500. How much above, we don't actually know. So it's worked out, but the other problem is that we stretched ourselves massively to buy this property, so we couldn't actually do any of the work. So in September it's 2 years,
right?
So we haven't actually finished that project yet.
Have you not thought of like investor finance?
So
finding this.
Yeah, so what we've actually done is we've got a bridging loan now, and that's finishing it.
Right. Yeah.
When we bought it, I don't say the business isn't as good as it was, but the business was mad. It was ridiculous at the time. We'd just come out of COVID, and it was the busiest the pub's ever been and will ever be again. We're never going to be at that level of sort of turnover and profit. So at the time, it's made sense to do something and invest in something, and we've just got a bridging loan, which has been quite interesting, to be honest, because when I was an estate agent, you go through the process and everyone sort of speaks really negatively about it. And I guess there is risks there, but with where we are in terms of the valuation, it's sort of kind of risk-free, to be honest. But you do have to be careful and obviously do as much research on it as you possibly can. So we're not going to sell it. When it's finished, we're going to get a mortgage, a larger mortgage, and we're going to Airbnb it, hopefully. Obviously, with where it is, it's in a conservation area, it's listed, it ticks all the boxes, so there might be a little bit of a fight. If there is a fight, we'll probably just flip it on and find something else. So,
well, even still, mate, you would do well to just rent it out as like a single let. A property like that, especially like in a sought after area, hold and die with it. Really do. Cause
have you ever been to York?
I've just been to Scunthorpe. I've been to I think is it close? I don't know.
I'm trying to think of a like a street that would be comparable, but there's a street in York called the Shambles,
right?
Which is like, it's all over Instagram. People take pictures there. It's got a few Harry Potter bits. I think some of Harry Potter might even be filmed there. It's like really pretty old, like cobbled street. Well, that's Steep Hill in Lincoln, basically.
Right.
I mean, if you said to somebody who's been to Lincoln, name one road, they would know the name of Steep Hill because if you've been up that hill, you would never forget it.
Canny steep.
Yeah. So that's that project. To be honest, it's probably slowed us down investing in other things. So I've thought about it a lot in terms of what should I have done? Should I have just bought a house to rent out? We probably could have had another one now that would have been renting out in the time, and obviously with the money we've spent on that property as well. So, you weigh things up. I mean, like, some of the property professionals that you'd probably speak to in these conferences might say that it was a bad decision, but I fell in love with it, you know. And I know you don't invest with your heart, you invest with your head, but yeah, it was so nice. It was like I said, great location and everything. So
Sometimes the heart and mind mesh together. Sometimes it does actually make total sense. Like, I think your area, I mean, from what you're saying there, like your reevaluation of it, it sounds like it makes total sense. It really
yeah,
does. So I think you've really picked a good one there. And again, I mean, if it doesn't work out as an Airbnb, something like that you want to hold on to, probably
I
for
think
life.
so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
If
because
it's
we've
worth 500 now, in 10 years' time, it's well
yeah,
within the possibilities of worth well over 1 million,
there's dude, there's like 25 properties on that road or something like that.
Right.
You
There
know,
you
so
go.
it's
Yeah.
and most of them are like shops and pubs and stuff like that. So it is, it's definitely a. I mean, you'll know this anyway, but they always say buy the worst house on the best road because you can change the
Exactly that.
house
Yeah.
a little bit, but yeah, so that's kind of what we sort of did there. And the estate agents, I won't mention the name, but the estate agents, I've actually got some of their estate agents on my Facebook as well.
Good
But yeah,
friends.
they did us a favour, yeah.
Nice, nice. So, you say you're running the pub as well. I mean, what's your involvement? You're not. I mean, it's nearly 8:30, and you're not pulling pints. So, are you just
No,
like
yeah.
literally managing it?
So when, I'll tell you the viewers etc. just a little bit about the sort of how I got into it. Like obviously it's my family. I've grown up in this pub. I moved to Hertfordshire, was in a state agency. There's another really good company that I'll come on to in a bit and tell you about. But in terms of what happened, my mum and dad basically leased the pub to somebody in 2019. And they pretty much ran it into the ground within 6 months.
God.
It was like awful, and I didn't know the sort of disrepair that it was in. Um, but yeah, so Dad rang me up, first time he's ever probably, and the last time he's ever asked me for help.
Oh, really help? I thought you meant ring you up in general.
Oh, no. I've got a really good relationship with
Yeah.
my parents, but like for Dad to ask for help, he's a proud man.
Mm.
He is who he is, sort of thing. So it was like it hit me. I was like, oh my god, so they're in trouble basically. So the people who leased it gave the keys back within 6 months. I pretty much, I think the day after the conversation, handed my notice in with my company I was
Wow.
working for, and I'd not long been with Laura. Yeah, I mean, me and Laura met in the January when Dad leased the pub. Um, we actually I got in a situation there as well, which is property related. Laura's was going through a breakup, and they own their house, and the ex had moved out, etc., and he was sort of forcing the sale of the property. So within like 6 months of knowing Laura, I we were buying her house. And I remember sort of sitting there and thinking, what is my life? Like, I've only just met
Yeah.
this girl. But we sort of sat down and had a really adult conversation. At the time, I was renting a flat. So I sort of said, well, look, let's just see it as a business relationship. You know, if it doesn't work out, I won't live with you. I'll pay half the rent. And then if something happens further down the line, we meet other people or whatever, and we need the money, then we'll review it then. But I think at the time, obviously, the biggest thing, Laura didn't want to move back in with family, and sort of didn't have a deposit or couldn't buy the ex out. So yeah, we bought that, and then I think it completed, and I think it was within like 2 weeks. So it was all like we're in a bit of a buzz. We bought a place
Yeah.
together, and then Dad's rung me up and said, "Can you help me?" sort of thing. Um, so we moved back. Well, I moved back to Hertfordshire, which obviously had a huge strain on our relationship. Moved back to Lincolnshire, and yeah, it was hard work. I think I barely had anything, mate. I had like £800 in my bank when I started running the business, and yeah, I remember recruiting people and saying like, yeah, come and work for me and stuff like that. And I remember sitting there, and the business had like, I don't know, 1,500 quid in the bank account from the first day of trading, and I'd just interviewed someone and said I'd pay him this. And I thought it was just the most bizarre experience because no one takes businesses on like that. They have tens of thousands in the bank. So when I was recruiting people, I was sort of sat there thinking, am I going to be able to pay them at the end of the month?
Yeah.
It was so far fetched. So we luckily it was extremely busy. We were doing a lot of social media marketing, and still are. And it started sort of, the business just started running really, really quick. I was working. I always used to say back then, like, I work 8 days a week, because it was every single day, 7 o'clock in the morning until like sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So it was getting a little bit of sleep. I still don't really know how I managed it, but that lasted pretty much until we went into the lockdown. So 6 months after we bought it, we went into the first lockdown.
God.
Um, yeah, so that was crazy. The building, I guess the pub itself is really nice. It's listed. It's beautiful. It's like 500 years old.
Wow.
And really, for me, coming out of property, I was probably more excited about restoring the building and like spending the money on it. I mean, I didn't take a wage at all. I was living in the business and eating and drinking in the business anyway, so it didn't
Yeah.
need it. I probably lived on like 30, £40 a month,
Yeah.
if that, I didn't go out. I remember the first time Laura dragged me out for dinner. It was like 4 months after we took it on. I'd not left. It was crazy to look back at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the roof needed doing. We built, the first thing I did was the first aim, if I say, was to build the patio, because I thought if I could get a massive 250 square meter patio, put music on, bought all the furniture, everything else. We planned it all. The builders were due to start on the 16th of March. I think we went into lockdown on the 20th. But on the 14th or something, or the day before the 15th, they were saying, look, they were sort of saying something, and I just said to him, look, I think let's hold off. Obviously for him, it was he's a young lad. I think he's a couple of years younger than me. He's got a really good landscaping company. Now he's massive, but he hadn't done anything this big, which I loved. I had a few quotes, and he was like me, just starting off, and he was really excited about it and everything, and he really wanted the job, and it was really nice to see. So that's why we sort of went with him. And obviously we were about to go in, and I let him down. I said, look, mate, you can't start yet, not while this is all going on. We're going to have to delay it.
Yeah.
So luckily in that 6 months period, I'd saved all of this money to do this project, and I had it in the bank, and I sat there and I thought, I can't now spend this. This has got my security blanket to get us through this. And then obviously the government announced various different supports. So I didn't end up, well, obviously you end up worse off because you end up in debt. But I was still, when we came out of that first lockdown, I was still able to press the button on the patio and build it effectively. So we started work. I think they gave us a 2-week window on opening up. So I rang him and said, look, let's get it open now. Let's get this patio done. Because we were coming out of lockdown.
Yes.
We spent a fortune on the garden. It was summer. Like everyone, it was perfect in terms of the marketing and what we did. I'd never seen that many people. I mean, I was nearly building a bar outside because we just couldn't sustain what we were doing.
God.
And obviously we're loud on social media and stuff like that, so everyone was really excited and getting behind it. But yeah, so that was the sort of first investment, and then my idea was that once we'd done the patio hopefully would pay for the roof to be done. The extra profit. I thought we were in the Eat Out to Help Out, if you remember that.
I think yeah.
They did 3 days a week where the government paid 50% of their bill,
yeah,
or
I think it was
something,
4 or 5.
or £10 per person, up to 20, like maximum of £10. We had a special button put on the till, and that was all quite exciting. And then, as we were halfway through that, the mains burst outside.
Just burst.
The pipe is like however many years old, burst on the Monday, flooded the whole pub. We had a wedding on the Saturday.
God.
It was our first wedding. The patio was completely underwater in the middle of summer. Eat Out to Help Out, just come out of COVID. Like, I'm not joking. I was on my knees in this water crying my eyes out.
Really?
It was the most like down I've ever been, because you're just trying so hard to like pull yourself out of these ruts, and it just was impossible. But yeah, so they flooded us on the Monday. We got open because we had this wedding on the Saturday. Did the wedding, that all went well. Woke up Sunday morning, and it burst again. I'm not joking.
Oh.
I literally, I remember
Oh,
sitting there and I
my
thought,
God.
this is not our bloody
Gonna cook.
time. Obviously this isn't meant to be. And then I
Hey,
sort of got some
mate.
advice. I got some. They have, you will have heard of this, but they have loss adjusters in these situations that come down and they basically evaluate everything. So he'd already been down once this week, and it was pretty rough. He was being a bit pernickety about stuff, and that's probably not really. It's been underwater, but it's okay. Like, we won't replace that. And then the second time he came down, it was almost just like he was like, just tell me what you need, basically. So it was. I mean, I really needed that anyway for my mental health. So, like, the bar, we completely refitted the bar. I think the bar project, I think it was something like 45,000, like with fridges. They replaced like the pumps. Obviously, the pumps that were on my bar they weren't broken. There was nothing wrong with them. But they were really good, if you know what I mean. Obviously, the bar did need a lift anyway. So, like, you look back now and you're sort of thankful for these things, but at the time, obviously, it's impossible to.
How that worked out, mate. That is like, that's a kind of touch from God or something, or some sort of intervention there. Like because you can imagine the emotions. When everything feels like it's falling, and they're literally falling down on top of you, flooding around you, literally.
Yeah, I'm underwater. Everyone says, you feel like you're underwater in business, and I'm like,
exactly, yeah. But and then like literally that, and then like the next series of events, you just kept going, and and you ended up getting all that. It's just like, I think if anything, it just shows you you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And I think these bad things do happen all throughout life. Obviously, everyone goes through times and whatever else. And I've turned into quite a pessimistic person as I've got a little bit older, to be honest. Like I took my nephew's go-karting today, and he was saying something. I can't remember what we were talking about. And I was like, yeah, life gets harder, like, you're enjoying it at the minute, but I'm not selling it to him at all. I was like, you wait, mate, you got it all together. I think they're all really scared of growing up. He's 14 now.
Right, yeah. You need that talk, to be fair.
I've got to sort of
getting real.
straighten him out a bit before he sort of. But yeah, no, he's a good kid. I think I was obviously seeing the first video I watched when, like, Anton I've not spoke to probably since, I can't even remember whose stag do it was, but
maybe a stag do. Yeah, it was like maybe Ollie's wedding or something, or
it would have been the wedding. Yeah,
I think literally I went straight back to my birthday. Do you remember when he came up? Because I was trying to think, but I remember Anton, like, he got involved, didn't he? Like, after Iron Napa in the kind of friendship group, but yeah, he
came out to Iron Napa, didn't he?
No, Anton didn't. No, I don't think so.
Oh, who did? I'm sure one of your cousins or something come out, or his brothers, or
it might have been Sean.
Sean came.
Sean came with his last, maybe.
I must admit, I know you, like, I sort of live with all of you Geordies, and then like, you were all. I felt like I was part of the family. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, it was
you
nice.
You were, mate. You were. Yeah. You're just like one of us, like that, like nothing,
Yeah, but yeah. So when I watched the video of you and Anton, and like, I was just like, it's just cool. It was really nice to hear he's doing well. Nice to see you're like just smashing it. You're progressing and everything else.
Trying to do something,
I've got a job. Yeah, you said a lot. You said about your the one you were going for, the property, but you didn't really say much about it. So is it half built?
So it's just an old 3-bedroom terrace, but it was an end terrace, and it had like a big side plot. And basically, what the guy's done is he built his wife's dream house, which was like another 4-bed, just on the side plot. He had all the permission and stuff. I think he'd built up the brickwork, like, he got the foundations in, built the brickwork up, and I think the council came out and said, like, because he was doing it all himself, and the council came out and said, like, oh, you need to redo that. It's shocking. So he ended up having to knock it all down. He rebuilt it, got proper brickies in to do it all again. He got up to, he built all the bricks up, put some of the windows in, all before putting the roof on. So he's got the joists for the roof, and then the guy died. He died like in the middle of the build. He built in we built a 2-berth garage at the end of the garden at first, but completed that. And his wife, who's left, she was saying that she was putting the roof tiles on to the garage while she was like heavily pregnant and stuff. I was like, God, you're an absolute like that's a beast. Yeah, yeah. And then so anyway, he's built up like basically the shell, and then sadly passed away before putting the roof on. And then that's been like that for about 3 years, I think. And I've got a video. I'll send you the video. I'll have like a
So
little tour around.
what are you buying then? Are you buying the
whole thing?
The whole thing, the house and the
whole
extension?
thing, yeah. It's classed as one plot of land at the minute. Like my instant thought was to change it, basically finish the build and make it into like an 8-bed all ensuite HMO, because of like your higher returns monthly, higher cash flow. That's kind of what I need, you know. So that's what I was going for. And then I spoke to a couple of people, and they said, "Oh, what you want to do is split it into 2 4-bedroom HMOs, and then you've got the ability to just sell them as like separate houses, like in time to come." And then so I kind of just had that in my head, like that seems like the best thing to do. And then I spoke to my uncle, who's been a property developer for 20 years, super successful, and he was like, "No, keep it as an 8-bed HMO." And like just like do the build as a full house, like a full 8-bed. And then he said like just hand it off to social housing pretty much. Because then you just get guaranteed rent. Yeah. And
if the rooms are empty, they pay anyway, don't they?
Still pay. Yeah, exactly. And they actually pay a little bit over the odds as well, because it's all like government funded. And
I think you touched on HMO regulations as well at some point in one of the videos. I can't remember which one it was. So down there, do you need permission to do that, or?
So if it's five or more, you need a license. It's an HMO license, and then as well, I think it's. I'm not too sure.
So I presume you've had. Have you had the conversation? Yeah, or not?
With the vendor?
I mean, regardless, it's a good buy, isn't it? But I just wondered if there would potentially be a hurdle of whether or not they'd allow it.
So, well, this is it. So there is other HMOs in the area, probably not as big as that one. So that would be a bridge that we're going to have to cross and come with. Yeah, it could actually end up being 2 4-beds. It could be the full 8-bed. It would make more sense, I think, is a full 8-bed, but we'll have to just kind of wait and see.
You've seen it as well, haven't you? Has your uncle seen it?
He hasn't seen it, but basically I ran him, give him all the information I had about it, and he was like, "Yeah, it seems like pretty good." And I was like, "All right, cool," because he's really he's really professional, and he's like not messing about, you know. He just picked up the phone and rang one of his mates who does HMOs in the area as well. And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I'll find out basically how much you'd be able to get for an 8-bed all ensuite HMO." So things are happening like that. And then I just at the end of the conversation, he was like, "Oh, so how are you going to pay for it?" And I was like, "Well, actually, I don't have any money." I was like, I'm kind of because like the start of this year, I started training and learning how to deal source, which is basically like, I think you probably know, packaging up property deals and selling them on to investors, or find an investor and then marry that with the property, you know, and then you kind of get like a finder's fee, basically an estate agent for investors rather than the vendor. So I started training in that, and this was a guy that I work with. It's at the end of his street. So he said, like, he was like, "Oh, come and see it." So
is it on the market?
No.
So it's still not on the market. And have you offered accepted?
Yeah, we've talked about it. She said she would accept 90 for it.
Can't get a mortgage on it though, can you?
No, I wouldn't be able to get a mortgage. And as well, we had a builder quote, and he quoted about where it was 97 grand, and that was rough as well. Like, it could quite easily go over that. But if it was 2 3-bedroom terraces on that street, they would probably go between 130 and 140.
Each.
So there's still, so it's still like, even if it was worst case scenario, single let, you'd still probably make like a decent amount of money, depending on how the market's going to go in the next kind of year or year and a half.
Difficult one, isn't it? Because with where you are and the sort of speed you're probably wanting to move at, that's the most difficult thing. You'll find
Yeah.
that you sort of want to run, and the HMO will be a dead cert income.
Yeah.
But if you flipped it and banked 100 grand, well, hypothetically speaking, if you got an investor, it's hard, isn't it? You'd have to.
Yeah.
You could pay them off, make profit, give them some profit,
Some
probably
I've kind of got a little bit of a philosophy on it. Like I've changed my mind a few times, but I'm kind of sticking with the game is Monopoly, so it is just acquire as much as possible kind of thing. But more than that is increasing my cash flow through property. Because it's never passive, it's never completely passive, but it's a lot more hands off than maybe some other investments. So I mean, some of them obviously nothing, like no hands on at all. But I think property, with its combination of capital growth plus your rental income, it's one of them where I think it's just buy and hold kind of till you die.
It's a really famous saying, and I'm sure that I'm probably embarrassing myself by not knowing who said it, but someone said, like, you need to become wealthy, you need to make money while you sleep. So like,
Warren Buffett.
Is it? I thought it might be. So I always say the same thing. Like, Laura was an osteopath, and she worked her ass off. She did. She is still an osteopath. Obviously, she's trained in that, but she doesn't practice at the minute. She's only as good as her hands are in terms of what she can earn. So if you're a plasterer, if you want to earn more money, you need to recruit someone else to plaster for you, and then obviously the more you do that, the probably the less quality product you're going to have at the end, etc., etc. So like, you're limited to what you can do with your hands. So anything, I still class property as passive, although you're going to have to deal with it. If you've got an income coming in, if you work it out on an hour, imagine you've got 10 HMOs, you can probably work out your hourly wage from your HMOs whilst you sleep.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, that's kind of the goal, because obviously I still do have a full-time job.
What are you doing at the minute?
Maintenance technician. It's not as fancy as it sounds. I just basically fix big machines that make cars in the car manufacturer that I work at. That I've worked at for 10 years. I
was going to say, I remember you saying that. So I remember, are you not allowed to say the name because of sponsors?
I just don't want to.
I remember.
It's no secret to them that I am trying to get in a position where I would be comfortable leaving my job. I've got no intentions yet. I'm probably a few years off in all reality. But you never know.
How old are you? 30? Are you older than me?
32.
Same
right?
age.
So, the thing is, I don't want to be one of these people who are in their 50s still working at that place, breaking your back. It's hard work, you know what I mean? You do 12-hour shifts. I'm putting in 49 and a half hours a week into that place. And, it's a lot for $3,000 a month, I'll be honest, $3,000 a month, So I'm and it's just I feel like I can get there in a property investment portfolio over the course of maybe 4 to 5 years, building it up using investor finance. I think I could replace my income into $3,000 a month.
Go back to what I said originally, you're investing in yourself.
Yeah.
And that in turn will reward you. I mean, again, I won't obviously mention any names, but I've got a friend of mine who is, I think he's a couple of years older than me, 35 or whatever. And, married, 2 kids, loves the life. He works hard. And I had a curry with him, and I was sat there just talking to him about things, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm overpaying my mortgage, £400 or £500 a month." And I was like, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, because
isn't it?"
He goes, "Well, I want to get it paid off, so I don't have that debt." And I was like, "Mate, you're 35 years old. You should have every single bit of debt, sensible debt, good debt, if you like,
good debt,
that you can possibly have." His house is 80% paid off, and he's 35. I was like, dude, remortgage
that shit.
Drop down to 10%. You've got 70% deposit. Buy another house. You could buy 2. You could have 2 houses. And, put them on interest only, whatever. The interest only thing's really interesting point. But I've really avoided interest only, and I don't
Mm.
like the I don't like it. But like I've got a friend who comes, stays in the pub. He's really nice. I'll send him your podcast. Actually, he's
Yeah.
probably a really interesting bloke to have on. Um, I might speak to him. He's really clever, and he's got a I don't know exactly what he does, but he stays in the hotel because of the RAF base. So I presume some sort of engineer. And I think he's got 4 or 5 properties now, and I don't want to say too much. I don't know anything about his financial position, but I think he's just been really smart. Like
Mm.
he's not. I wouldn't say he's earning hundreds of thousands or whatever. I think he's just been extremely clever with the money he's had, and
Yeah.
we've had some really good conversations. Just around what he's done. He's interest only to all of his properties.
There you go.
So he keeps it in a separate bank, and as soon as it builds up to a certain level, he then buys another one.
So, I
Um,
mean, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why people use interest only. It's because it's a double whammy, right? If you're because of when you're at the very beginnings of your mortgage, you're mostly paying the interest anyways.
yeah,
It's not actually chipping away at the debt at all. And in times of high inflation, if you're paying interest only, so the bank has the big liability, don't they? They have most of the skin in the game. Sorry, sorry. Yeah, the bank is the one with kind of like, they've got the most liability on them. Over time, with inflation, that is actually dropping the value of
yeah.
the debt. So as that's why they put inflation out there.
I
It's because
guess,
all that them millions
yeah, yeah.
billions that they owe is shrinking through the inflation. So get yourself leveraged up and then use inflation to drop it back. Pay it off for you.
What we've done, obviously the one that I've got the large mortgage on is the house that we bought originally, me and Laura.
Mm.
And like we got it probably at a good price. The market's moved up quite a lot because of where it is, and we've been paying full amount.
Mm.
And I think it's 5 years or whatever, and I've nearly got £100,000 in that property. Now I've paid probably the best part of 50 off, 40
Yeah.
something. I'd have to do the maths, and then the property's gone up that as well. And there's a tenant paying for the mortgage, obviously. So it's not cost me anything. I think actually we lose about £5 a month or something because it's a fortune,
Right.
especially with the interest rates. Um, the rent has gone from 800 a month to 1200 a month, and that's about right for the rental market around it. Um, but yeah, so I sort of look at that and I go, well, if I do another one of them in another 4 years, we're going to remortgage probably at some point in the next 12 months, and I could buy another one and probably start to make money on that one still anyway, with interest rates expected to come down.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, like, I don't know if it's because I've got a business that's got a good income, so the income itself isn't as interesting to me as someone who's
Mm.
like Josh, who's trying to expand and buy houses all the time. Um, but yeah, I think there's two sides to it, and I do understand the interest only thing, and I get why people do it. I've also seen people have interest only mortgages on their own personal houses,
Yeah. I think
and
I'll
then
switch to an interest only.
they get to 50, and all of a sudden the bank's like, well, you're too old for this debt. It happened to a family member. So they were sort of moving anyway, but the bank didn't quite force it. But they were sort of saying, like, what's your plan? Obviously, you're going to be retiring in the next 6 years. You've got 20 years left or 15 years left on your mortgage. So then they were in a situation where they were forced pretty much out of their house. Um,
It can happen, but I mean, if you're smart about it, so say in 20 years' time, I've got a portfolio of 10 houses.
yeah,
At the end, they're all fully mortgaged up. I've been paying interest only on all of them. You could sell two, because obviously the capital growth as well, like
and
they're
pay all the
worth a lot
mortgages
more,
off.
and paid all of them off. Yeah,
Hopefully, yeah.
hopefully. But obviously it's something that you're just gonna have to work on and make sure you're doing the right thing at the time. But like having that in your mind as well, like your exit strategy, what's it
Yeah,
gonna be? But I think especially for now, cash flow is king. So to be able
yeah,
to have a cheaper mortgage payment each month because it's going to be interest only, I'd rather do that then
Yeah, I
pay
mean,
off this debt that's
especially
getting
when
shrunk by inflation
especially when
anyway.
interest goes up, right? Like now,
Yeah,
what
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know what your mortgage is currently and like where it would sit, but
It's
yeah,
like
I'm
it's almost tripled,
crazy,
which
isn't
is
it?
just nuts.
But
Yeah,
we're
it's like
hopefully
two and a half times.
on the way down now.
Yeah, 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 definitely. I mean, we'll be due a remortgage next year, and we're gonna definitely probably pull out as much as we can and get like a little flat somewhere. You know,
Yeah, how long have you had the house then?
this is 1 year in.
Oh, really?
So in the second year, we're just gonna pull out because we kind of like when we were moving into this place. I was only just kind of looking into property and
Yeah.
like learning the ins and outs. You know, I didn't know what to do. Really, I was completely clueless. Still am. I haven't actually done anything yet. I've just like learned
Yeah,
some
but I
stuff, but
think like, I remember when you were saying just about what's the word when you sort
mindset.
of you put yourself in the mindset, you talk to people that are doing it. I think
Yeah,
estate agency did it to me. Like, obviously, I
yeah,
wouldn't recommend to you now to go and become an estate agent, but like, I swear to God, I would tell my children for 2, 3 years or whatever, just go get a Saturday job as an estate agent. Like,
yeah.
go and do some viewings and just because you're just opening the door, but you're just going to learn so much. Like, I can't wait till I've got a little girl now, Tallulah, but like, and she's probably not going to be the only one we have, but I can't wait to like when she gets to like 14, 15, I'm going to be like, right, I'm taking you on a viewing. You're going to
Yeah,
negotiate on this house. You're going to write the
yeah,
emails. You're going to do this. We're going to buy this together. You're going to deal with the solicitors. Like, I know that the solicitors are going to think I'm an idiot, but like, I just think learning that process is so, so valuable. And what I learned all of that, and I'd sold. I think I worked it out the other day. I think I must have sold like over 50, 60 million pounds worth of property in my years as an estate agent. I mean,
yeah.
the biggest deal was like 4 mil, um, and like what did I know? I was 22, like barely. I didn't even know I didn't have a mortgage, and I was giving people advice, multimillionaires. It's crazy, you know. I still would like look at it a lot now. I'd like to take on. I'd like to open an estate agent, definitely,
I was
just because
gonna say, I was just about to say, mate. Like the thing is, so when you were working as an estate agent, you're making the company a lot more money than what you're making.
yeah, of
So if you
course.
just done it again, but it's your company, you know what I mean? You know, like reasonably how everything works. I'm sure you'd be able to pick it all up. But then you're splitting yourself through two very different businesses, you know, with the
Yeah,
pub and
see,
then that. It's very different.
I look at as mad as this sounds. I look at this business. I'm this is part of my property business. You know, very much. I
Right.
see this as
Makes
I
total sense.
own a massive asset in
Yeah.
Lincolnshire, and you know, I'd like to own another one. Like, what happens with the market moving forward is it's the same thing. It's just accumulating an asset.
Yeah.
Not only that, but the beer sales, the food sales, pays your mortgage. Like it's fantastic. Like we were going to move. We
Yeah.
live in the pub currently. We were going to move out into a buy and try and buy our own house because it you know it's takes its toll when you like. I'm just letting the dog outside and I'm bumping into staff and they're asking things and like I'm like I'm in my dressing gown. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you can't imagine the sort of strain that it puts on you. So we were sort of umming and ahhing on whether to buy a house, especially since Tallulah's been born, and then we saw a pub and it had like a really nice flat and it's got its own access to its own private garden. And me and Laura were like, why would we buy a house and
Why? Why?
fund a mortgage, have to pay tax on that, and our structures work in such a way where basically the businesses are obviously paying the mortgages and you know it's investing its money. I know that's how business works, but when you get that into your head it's hard to say, right, I'm going to withdraw money from there and have a house mortgage, a personal one. Even now when I think about buying a house, I'm like, I wonder if I could build like if it had a barn or something on it, if I could turn it into holiday
Annex.
lets. So then the holiday
Yeah.
lets in, they will then pay. Like I'm always trying to source, you know.
Yeah, no, but it's a good way, isn't it? It's like just being creative
Yeah.
with your approach. So, talking about that business structure, I know you said you did want to kind of get into it. So, can you tell me how it works? Because I'm a bit unsure.
What's so the holding company?
Yeah, I mean, like it kind of makes sense, but if you tell us kind of maybe how you structured yours,
So I'll
and I'm
start.
not taking it as advice what I want to do,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
might kind of make it so I understand it.
I think it's really good. So Josh, who I mentioned earlier, who's got a few houses, he's hit hurdles now. He's got 4 or 5 houses, and my structure sorts his hurdles out, and he's not getting that advice from accountants. And
Mhm.
so we were trying to buy the pub basically. I was currently a sole trader at the time, so we were investing masses. It didn't make sense to go limited. I wasn't making any money. It was all going straight back
Yeah.
into the property. So I spoke to, I'm not joking, I spoke to an estate agent, and because of the amount we were borrowing, um, did I say estate agent then? An accountant.
Mhm.
I said, right, I want to buy the pub. What's the most tax efficient way to do it? And he said, well, what you need to do is basically you're going to have to withdraw. We'll go limited. You're going to have to withdraw personally. The mortgage was like 6.5 grand a month. So
Crikey.
to cover the tax only to just pay the mortgage, I would have had to withdraw like 9,000 something a month. So I put a bit in the tax account and then pay the mortgage. So before I've even bought myself anything, I need
God.
£10,000 a month out of the business, which isn't there obviously.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I had that from one accountant. I went to another one. I said, and I remember hitting my head against the wall, going, "This cannot be right. People don't buy businesses like this. This isn't impossible." So it sort of really put a massive strain on me because that was in my plan. It was my 5-year plan. So it was sort of I was going backwards. Spoke to another accountant. They pretty much said the same thing. And then my friend sent me details, and I will drop his name because he's definitely one of the best. I mean, like I said, I went round the best accountants in the county, and I couldn't get this advice. It's Chris Baker. His company's called Moolah Matters in Stevenage,
I like the name.
which is cool. Yeah, I
Cool
mean,
name, yeah.
when
Yeah.
I tell people, they're like, "What? What's Moolah?" But yeah, no, he's a really nice guy. Like he'll come up. He's taken us out for dinner. He's like, do you know what I mean? We're obviously good clients, but it's just yeah, he's a really really good accountant and he knows what he's talking about. And I would
Yeah.
say every time I've had a problem, I've gone to him and he's got solutions. I do kind of think sometimes, and I'm speaking bad about the accountant, maybe generically about the accountancy industry, people have done like a course and
Mm.
they maybe have another level of accountancy above them, and they're just like a bookmaker or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Right.
I've lost my train of thought now. So yeah, so when we were buying the pub, there was this.
Moolah matters.
Yeah. So when basically what we ended up doing and what Chris has advised us to do is to set up a holding company. The holding company purchases the asset, and then we have a trading because we've got a limited company and a holding company that owns the asset. The trading company pays rent to the other one, and that's their business. So there's
Yeah.
a couple of really good things with this. Obviously, the rent is completely profit and tax deductible, and then the corporation tax on the holding company is obviously considerably less than what we would have been paying. As obviously we would have been classed as high earners
Mhm.
at 10 grand a month or whatever. So not only that, but if something happens to my business now, my asset's protected. So
Yeah.
if for whatever reason we go bust, touch wood, we could just rebrand the name and open again.
Yeah.
Laura could open it. You could open the business for us and be one of the directors. I don't know how
Yeah.
going bust works. Hopefully, I don't learn too much about going bust. But so when we were obviously we got like a tax bill or whatever, and I was just talking to him about the property that we owned that was rented out, and this is just one property that we owned, and he said, "Well, let's just do the holding structure again." Now, there's another thing that a lot of people don't know. So you obviously own your asset. Your house will be in yours and Charlotte's name or whatever.
Yeah.
You can transfer it. So if you were to rent that house out and you had this limited company, you can transfer it you can sell it effectively to a company and not pay any capital gains or stamp duty.
See, I thought you had to pay stamp duty
Yeah, so
if you
there's
done
a
it that
couple
way.
of apologies if I make any mistakes on this. There is a couple of hurdles that you have to go through.
And that,
No,
that must
definitely.
take a-
Like, because if you obviously if you're going to do it for a start, then you definitely check it all out.
yeah.
But yeah,
But it's good to have the like just the ideas there.
tax purposes, if you, I don't know what the like if you set up a HMO, you would set up a limited company, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So when you purchase that property, are you planning on buying it as a limited company? Had you thought about this?
I was planning on doing the holding company structure.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you buy it
But
as the
I
holding
didn't really
company.
know much about it.
So you buy it as the holding company. So you'll need to set that up. It isn't cheap, or at least Chris didn't charge me a small amount to do it. So maybe it is, and he's just, because the advice is great. So I didn't even argue it. I said, yeah, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you'd buy it in the holding company, and then your rent that you get from the council, you'd put into another company, which is the trading account. So if anything was to happen with the trading business, which, obviously the risks are pretty low with the council, but if, for example, something was to happen with the tenant and it forced the you to go bankrupt and default, or I don't know, like get into a situation basically where, you couldn't fund the asset and it was going to be repossessed, you could just close that company down and the asset itself is protected.
Right. So it's still under the holding company, but the company's gone. The trading company's gone.
Basically, it just protects the asset. Yeah. So your relationship with the council is via one company. The asset, you'll just pay a rent, just like I do with the pubs, to the other side. But yeah, so it just protects that asset. And not only that, but obviously, yeah, when you're in a limited company, obviously there's massive tax benefits. But so Josh, who I was telling you about, he's got 5 properties. He's got a really good income because they're all on interest only, plus his own income from his job. I mean, he's going to be paying some tax, which is crazy. Especially when there's ways around it, if that makes sense. I mean, half of this expansion and what when you go through this is all learning. Like, the game is pay as little tax as possible, isn't it? And I know people don't.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that probably people don't like that, but you can't physically expand at the rate you want to expand if you're paying 45%.
That is the game. That is literally the game. Like, I pay enough. I mean, I've just hit that threshold myself in my actual job, so I pay enough tax already.
Yeah.
And I don't like how they're spending it. So, if the kind of less I can put into that, that's my money that they're spending. I don't really want to do what they're doing.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But
yeah, so
I think it makes sense.
obviously, I'm not an accountant, so I wonder if I made any mistakes when explaining that. But yeah, I mean, the advice that I've been given is always keep things as separate as possible. And if you do need to close a company down or whatever, for whatever reason, then your asset is protected. Not only that, this is a good one. As your children get older, you can make them directors of the company.
Yes.
And you can just resign. So there's no inheritance tax. I don't think there's any inheritance tax.
Resign. I get it.
So you just we'll just put our kids into this company, whatever it turns into. I don't know. I mean, you might come back in 10 years and I've just got my one house in it still, but yeah,
I don't think so. Somehow I don't think so.
But yeah, so you could. That's a pretty good way of handing over assets without using trusts and stuff.
I think I need to speak to my mum, to be honest, because well, to be fair, my mum's only 20 years old. This is like I know it's weird to speak about. I've got a good inheritance, like I know I do, but I couldn't rely on it because my mum's only 20 years older than me. Yeah. So it's like, if she lives to 100, I'm going to be 80.
Yeah.
I'm going to be retired for 30 years already.
Yeah.
With all any luck, So, yeah, it's something that you need to speak about, though. I think, like, families who are open about speaking about money, they're usually more well off. They're like, if it's kind of like talked about at the dinner table, for instance, because some families do not talk about it, and actually they end up having a poor relationship with money. In my opinion, I think the more
it breaks my heart when
it
breaks my heart when you see people falling out as well when this all happens, like families. Sorry, I interrupted you. Then go on, mate.
No, it's fine. I mean, yeah. So we'll move on though. I mean, so what have you got planned for the kind of near future? You know, rather
So
than a 5-year plan, what you got coming up next?
just something I was thinking about the other day, and this is slightly off topic, but like I've done this all my life. I've always had like a plan, a 5-year plan. And I
Right.
sat there and I was reflecting, and I thought, "Do you know what? Because you're aiming and you're striving, like just be careful because you wish time away. Like you'll be like, I can't wait to do that
Right.
first deal. Can't wait. You'll be like, right, this is it, this is it, and you sort of forget about the moments and whatever else is
Mm,
going on. Um, so I'm more conscious now about trying not to like you say, like plan too far ahead and get too excited about things. But I mean, we've just
yeah.
ordered the kitchen for Steep Hill. We've got a lot going on there still, but most of it is now installing windows, kitchens, bathrooms, and stuff like that. So
Mint.
that should hopefully be finished and all goes to plan open by December. We're aiming for, which will be good.
Nice.
Um,
Yes.
Obviously, I know you're talking about HMOs in terms of like turnover on that. We're estimating that it's going to be around £500 a night. So that's kind of
Crikey.
why I'm sort of leaning towards the Airbnb side. Like, I get the HMOs, but like the other thing is as well, I we're doing that property kind of as our holiday home, and we're going to rent it out. Although it's not far
Yeah.
away for us to escape. Oh, Alexa's just gone off then. For us to escape and go stay there for a few days, come out of the pub or whatever, that's like amazing. And then we can check things over, and then we rent it out again on the weekend when we come back to work, sort of thing. So it's kind
Yeah.
of got two uses. But yeah, so in terms of like turnover, that's definitely the best option for that particular property, especially with where it is. So we're going to get Steep Hill finished, and I think probably we'll have to see. I put an offer in on a pub. It was really cheeky, but no one's buying pubs at the minute. And the last one that
Yeah.
sold in the area was like 250,000. This one was on at 350. We offered like 270. Subsequently, they've reduced it to 300, and the estate agent has said categorically, we're not accepting anything lower than that. And this was about 4 weeks ago, and it's still available. So I personally
Mm.
feel my offer's probably not a million miles away, if not bang on.
Do you know
Um,
what it is? Do you know what it is? You know, if they come back, do not pick up the phone because if they come back, say, well, I'm a bit more tied up now. I'm actually going to have to reduce my offer down to 250,
ooh,
you
what,
know?
you really? Do you want to sell it now? Do
Yeah.
you? It's annoying because
The thing is, right, if you don't feel embarrassed by how cheeky your offer is, it's not low enough.
yeah. I mean, I was definitely. Do you know what? I wrote a really good cover letter. Like, it wasn't just like this is our offer. That's where we are. Like,
Right, okay.
the I've been through the process. I know what the bank are lending at the minute. It's like 50%. So
Yeah,
you've got to put down, £135,000 or whatever just to buy it. There's two
yeah,
types of buyers for pubs at the minute. There's people that have never been in pubs. Okay, they've got no idea. They've got a house down in Hertfordshire or London, whatever, and they go, "Oh, let's retire and go take on a pub in Lincolnshire." It is the most ridiculous idea in the world. Doesn't make any sense. Like, it's stressful. It's going to bleed all your money. It's not massively profitable. Unless you really know what you're doing, it's not a retirement. And the majority of these people have never run a pub, like, probably haven't frequented pubs as much as most people. And, they're unaware of the sort of labour and the stress that it will sort of incur. The other type of person that's buying pubs at the minute is companies that are, like, expanding because the market's cheap and they're really cash rich, so they'll be paying cash. So the problem is that buyer isn't here where we are. They're not buying. They look at chimney pots and radius. So they'll put like I've seen it. Like Marston's will put like a circle around the pub, and they'll know how many chimney pots are within that area. Is that going to work as a business? No, not enough chimney pots. Bang. Now, if you look at our
right.
business where we are, chimney pots awful. We get people driving 50 minutes to us
Crazy.
because of how
Yeah,
sparse Lincolnshire is. So their business model or their, property purchase model or whatever you want to call it does not work because there's not enough chimney pots. But they also aren't taking into account that people who live in Lincolnshire are happy to drive. I'm 45 minutes from Lincoln. I'll drive to Lincoln for a curry. You know, down in Hertfordshire, I wouldn't go more than 5 minutes. You know, there was two within a 5-minute walk, never mind a drive. So it's different. It's a different sort of model. But anyway, they're not selling. The pubs aren't selling anytime soon. So we'd like to get one more pub, see how that goes, and I'm sure following on from that, we'll probably be making some decisions. And I'm hoping in the interim, whilst we're doing the hospitality expansion, you know, Steep Hill earns enough money to hopefully pay for another purchase in the property industry. What I don't want is what we've been guilty of is our properties taking money out of the hospitality business, because it strains it, and we can't really put much strain on it, if that makes sense. So it's just been a bit of it's been an eye opener. Steep Hill's been a big eye opener. You just don't realise how much you can spend on properties sometimes. Your one scares me. I'd love it. I think it's great, but I'm like, whoa, that is big. It's
it's a big one for my very first one.
Yeah, but it's that you've got to take the risk.
Start small. Well, this is it, and I think I've done the right thing getting in contact with my uncle. He's so experienced that if at any point he thinks that I'm making a bad move, he's going to tell us. I trust him to kind of point us in the right direction. And as well, if he is an investor himself, so if I can just find out some criteria of him.
Do you think he will invest? Have you asked him?
So I was about to tell you before, he asked me how I was going to pay for it, and I said I'd started learning how to be a deal sourcer. My plan was just to find properties, package them up, sell them, build up a pot of my own, and then invest in my own. So I don't actually have a deposit for it. And he was like, don't worry about that. We'll loan you that.
Oh, really?
And I was like,
amazing.
Yeah. And I was like, holy shit. So, but that means I will be indebted up to my tits.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
It really will be. But if it works, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't not matter at all, you know.
As I said, debt
as you
said.
That's
payable is fine, isn't it? It's as soon as it becomes unachievable, or I mean, obviously, the council things are like a good option, isn't it? We've touch wood again. We've had really good luck with our tenants, although, like, a funny story. We've got, so the first tenant we had in there was like builder, really sound bloke. He had a dog, like the dog was like 18 or something ridiculous. Like he was like, "Is it all right to have a dog?" I was like, I met the dog. I was like, "Yeah, it's fine." Really like down to earth bloke on his own. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, I genuinely mean it. Like he was there for 2 years. I don't think I spoke to him. Really? I don't think he rang me once. Not about anything. And when we went in, it was all tidy. There was nothing really wrong with the property. And then we've rented to, luckily I haven't got these people on Facebook. We've rented to a young professional couple from London. Like one of them's a CrossFit trainer, which is like fine. I've loved CrossFit, but certain type of person.
Yeah.
And I think it was like week 4. He was like, the light's not working in the bathroom. She texted, we set up a WhatsApp group because we're managing it. Oh, that's the other thing with the holding company or the limited company. When you're moving a property from your name to the limited company, you have to manage it. You have to be seen to be doing 40 hours a week in the company. Otherwise, it's not classed as, it'll break the rules effectively. I mean, my argument is that I'm on call 24/7, so there's no way that you could argue about the hours. Like he texts me at 9 o'clock at night, he texts me at 7 o'clock in the morning, you know, so I could show that sort of thing. But so he's texting me about this light, and I'm like, have you checked the bulb? He's like, this doesn't work, mate. I'm not happy about this. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, just maybe just check the bulb. Like, obviously, I was being a bit sarcastic, but I was like, obviously, I can get an electrician round, but, you know, and he didn't text me back anyway, so I presume it was the bulb. And I just thought, what life have you lived where you come into a property and you're like, this light's not on? But I mean, there's a funny, like, my patience has definitely grown a little bit thinner with tenants because of these. But don't get me wrong, they're lovely. They're just I sometimes I just don't think they live in like a real world as such.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I said, but Laura was cracking up. I'll text it you. I'll find it after and I'll text it you because it is really funny. But it's something to do with like he was being really sarcastic. Like he said, "This is broken. It's about as useful as a chocolate teapot." Right, in this text message, and then we were talking, and then I found out, and I was like, "Yeah, it's and then I referred back, and I was like, "Yeah. So if you do that, you can get rid of that chocolate teapot that you've got." And like just really sarcastically sort of responded because I think when you're busy, you kind of just feel like your patience is run a bit thin. And
I'm definitely feeling a bit more of that at the minute. Like, obviously, just like now, you know what's weird? Like after starting this podcast, and obviously it's not anything yet. I don't get many viewers. I get a fair few viewers on the reel side and like the TikTok and all that. But it's more obviously like views is one thing, actual engagement, like the likes and stuff like that, it's a total another story. And the podcast, obviously, I think on Spotify, the first one's got like 10 views, and then the last two have got 0.
Oh, really?
But the thing is I'm willing to do it. I think realistically, I'd give it 36 months. I think like that's a realistic timeline to see if I can actually grow a following because it's never going to be overnight. Maybe a clip goes viral and you get like a little spike in followers or spike in like likes and things like that. But really, it's a long game. So it's like I'm running this on the side of trying to break into the property market, plus me full-time job, plus
spinning plates.
The kids. Yeah. I mean, but it interlinks so well because I can like, as I'm learning about property, I'm speaking to people who are just on a higher level than me. You know, that is the goal, to speak to people. I don't want to speak to anybody who's just starting because I'm not going to learn anything. You know what I mean? But speaking to people,
eventually you'll be, before. 10 years time, you could be. It's a couple of things. Like it's a weird thing. I've never done it before. I'm like, oh, what t-shirt should I wear? Is that a bit, you're thinking you must do it as well. You're putting stuff out.
It's going to be the clips for the next 7 days. I'm gonna have to look at myself, and I like one of them. I like, I end up wearing a hat because I've got such a bad receding hairline. I'm like, oh, I can't try and do my hair. It doesn't work. I'm like, I'm just wearing a hat.
But it's just great. Like you're right. The process, like going through it, I think it's amazing. I mean, even if it doesn't turn into anything, I think it's a great thing to do. Laura walks in and she goes, "What are you watching?" I've got it on my big TV in the living room. I was like, "That's my mate."
Mine. You watching mine?
Yeah, I was watching your podcast. I was watching you and Anton. She was like, "Who are these?" I was like, "Oh, that's Anton." That's Damien. And I said, do you know what was interesting?
I'm sweating now.
You take it as a compliment, I'm sure, but like, I can't
remember. I really, really do. I'm flattered, mate.
She said, I was like, "That's my friend's podcast," and I said, "Oh, it's about property, etc. Like, it's called Property, like really good. I think you should also spin on having a cup of tea more at the start. Like, have you got your brew, sort of thing?"
Yeah, I've got it. Don't tell anyone. It's just water.
Is it? Well, I'm cheating, but I got a beer.
I'd rather have that.
Yeah. But yeah. And she was like, "Oh, does he use the money from the podcast to invest in property?" And I was like, oh.
Eventually.
No, but she was like, she obviously thought it was good enough to be.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying.
She thought you were making like good income from it. And I said, "Oh, I don't know how many views he's at," sort of thing. But yeah, no. But I thought that was quite interesting. I thought you'd like to hear that. She thought, "Oh, it's really good then if he's just starting."
It's a nice confidence boost. The thing is, right, I think, like that whole financial freedom, replace my wage, quit the 9 to 5, or quit the 7 till 7. I think potentially I could get there quicker through the podcast, just talking to people.
And
just talking to people through sponsorships.
What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly. Exactly. You know what it is? I love it. I actually love it. It's like, I can't wait for them when they're coming around, like, like somebody's coming on. I did forget about one guy and I left him waiting for 6 minutes. I felt awful about it. But it was just like one of them days with the kids.
I don't think I've seen it. Have you seen that one?
So I had a bit of a nightmare with it. He joined the room
Was
and
I
then
meant to
was obviously
record
6
something as
minutes
well?
late. No, it's just on mine. On mine, I'm
Because you
recording.
said, "Oh, Anton forgot to record," and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, he was trying it out because basically he's going to start his own. He's got his own
Anton is.
ready. Yeah, mate. It's the most untapped resource, right? I mean, I could give you all the facts and figures, but it's insane. It's like the equivalent of having a podcast in 2024 is like having a YouTube channel back in 2010. You're getting in on the early wave because there's what was it? Something like 75 million active YouTube channels, but there's only 400,000 active podcasts. That is insane, isn't it? And as well, the what was I going to say? The ad spending. So ad spending on podcasts has doubled every year since like 2017 or 16 or something like that. So it's like now it's up to I think maybe 4 billion a year or some crazy number like
Mad, isn't
that.
it?
And as well, it's the people who listen to podcasts are usually more affluent people.
I
You
must
know,
admit, like
it's
I
all these
watch,
things tick the boxes. Like
especially
you watch them.
especially cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
watch. I mean, I would say my hourage on podcasts on crypto is through the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned everything I know in crypto via podcasts, basically, and
Way to go.
YouTube. I've just completely self-taught. But yeah, and obviously I told you about like I've always wanted to do one like in the pub, like where I invite people down. I've got in my, as soon as I watched yours, it like sparked it up again because I was thinking about it
Good.
years ago, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, like just love the idea of like you come down or whatever. We'll sit there and have a pint in the pub. People are walking in. They're coming in,
Yeah.
ordering a table or having a table, sitting down having dinner. There are people who are in the background, and we're sat there like just having a chat. Like obviously, the walks of life, I would because it's in the pub, I would make it not specific at all. So you'd be like
Yeah. No niche.
yeah, like obviously one week we'd have like David Beckham on like. No, but like I've got friends
It
that
could be anybody,
yeah, I've got friends that are in hospitality. I've got a friend who's in construction. He would be interesting to talk to. Like his company's turning over millions. I've got two friends in construction actually. I race motorbikes, so I've got like I know some of the lads that race bikes for the BSB. Like it'd be cool to get one of them on. Lads I've gone
Yeah.
to school with. Some of the people like I've got influencers that I don't think she would come on, but she's got like 5 million. I went to school with her. She's got 5 million followers on Instagram.
You'd be surprised, right? This is the thing about podcasts, right? What is people's favorite subject?
Yeah,
Themselves.
yeah,
People want to talk about themselves, and that's the thing, right? And like obviously not in a bad way. You want to find out their story because to somebody out there it's relatable. To somebody out there they're going to learn something. It's like it ticks just so many boxes, and you know what? It's so much fun. Like you should 100% give it a go. And this was another thing I was going to say. So if you make it past episode 21,
yeah.
you're in the top 1% of podcasters because everybody quits. You've got to it's got all about consistency. It's all about just putting in that work and like putting in the time. That's what it is, time. But it's like the bar is like down here of like things you can do really online,
Yeah.
online businesses. It's just that it takes a long time to build it up. But if you just enjoy it, then it's
Well,
just
this
a
is
hobby,
the thing,
really,
yeah. I
isn't
mean, it's not. It's quite cool. I mean, obviously, because we know each other, I guess it's probably slightly
Yeah.
easier. Like some people, you might get in,
it?
and
It is.
you find that you could be sat there going, "Oh God, right." And I've written down a couple of things just in case. Like I thought I might lose my mind or like struggle to speak. Obviously, with you, it's just been completely natural. So yeah, you
It's
obviously
the first time I haven't had notes, actually.
really.
Yeah, first
That's
time.
good.
But obviously, this is episode 4. This is
Yeah.
episode 4, so
You're
it's
getting
like
good.
I'm right at the start, mate. I'm
So
right at the start.
have you because I was obviously I've done loads of research on this now, but have you got like a bank of episodes, or have you just put them out?
I just put them out. I put them out, but what they say to do is save up kind of 4 and then launch 4 at the same time.
Yeah. That's what I was reading. So do 4, and then you launch 1 on week 1, and then you're filming the 5th.
Yeah.
So then you
I've
put it
just
out. So
been-
you've always got. So if you go on holiday for a week or 2 weeks, you're
Yeah.
still doing it, and then you catch up or whatever.
Yeah. So mine, I've just been completely winging it. I've just been putting out, like I put my first episode out and then it was like 2 weeks before my next one. And then I think it was another 2 weeks before the one after that, something like that. It was
Yeah.
really like spurious
So how do you
recording.
find
But
people? Obviously,
it's like it depends, isn't it? But it's like been my brother, and then somebody who I met at a property event, and then like a lady who just agreed to come on through one of the group chats that I'm in. So that progressive company that I go to, I'm in one of their group chats, and I just put it in. Does anybody fancy coming on the podcast? Within 10 minutes, I had 3 people inboxes, and then within like another hour, I had like 5 people booked in. Basically,
amazing.
it's been to be honest, I set up like one of these calendars where you send out your
Yeah,
availability,
yeah.
and I sent it out to everybody. And then people booked in the first week. It was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And it was just too much. I couldn't do it. I had to like cancel people and basically just kind of try and spread it out a bit more. I'm
Yeah.
just too busy in my everyday life. So like, but trying to do like maybe one or two a week, and then I've got that 7 day period where I'm pumping out all the clips, and then just in that time try and find another guest, and I'm just kind of winging it
I
more,
think it's
more than
wicked, man.
anything.
Really cool. It's like, I
I
mean,
love it.
it's. I don't know if this is the entrepreneur in me, but like when you see things and like it ignites something in you. Like you've
Yeah,
obviously had this with property, etc. But like I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do this now, and that sort of inspired
do
me
it.
to sort of do it. Yeah, you'll definitely have to come on, and maybe one day when you're
100%.
coming down to Peterborough. When are you next up then?
Yeah.
That's so. Tell me a bit about
So
Progressive.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So I've been through another training company. I'll not name names. It's not really. I just don't like doing it. But it was a bit like it was very large groups of people all getting taught at once, and it was really like unpersonal kind of thing. You really separated from the hosts and stuff. Like it's like us and them. And then there was one time when I was on the stage and just somebody said something to us, and I just thought, you know what it is? Like I paid I'm unpaid 2 grand for me to be there. You know what I mean? I lent the money off him, and somebody else had paid 10 grand, and he goes, oh, you're the VIP. He goes, we'll look after you. And I was like, I fucking paid 2 grand. Like that's a really shit thing to do.
Well, one of
So
the
I kind
hosts
of I
said
had
it.
it in my head. Yeah, yeah, on stage in front of people as well. And I was just like, you know what it is? Like, I feel like you shouldn't just look after people who pay
Yeah,
the
yeah,
maximum
yeah.
amount. So, anyways, I kind of vowed not to buy another course, just but learn from all the free events. So I was just looking online, all the free events, and then I found Rob Moore online, and I liked his content that he was putting out. I liked his views on things, and I was like, right, okay. So I looked for a free event, went down, and you're in a room, maybe with 100 people, but you're really close to the stage. You're like right there,
Yeah, yeah.
and you can interact with people. People he asks you, "Have you got any questions?" And it's like, right, I've got the chance to ask a millionaire question. So I'm like writing down my questions, like, well, what's going to be a good question to ask, in the break or in the Q&A.
Yeah.
But the most valuable part about it, obviously, you get talks, and they just sell you courses. But it depends what you want to do. Like if you want to be a podcaster, they sell a podcasting course. So it's like you can either learn how to do it on your own, like me, or you can pay 1,500 quid and learn it in a day or 3 days, or whatever it is. And you come away and you're sorted. You could even have a sponsor by the end of the 3 days. You know what I mean? Right at the start.
Really?
So it's paying to win. So if you've got the money there, and then
Yeah.
so the one course that I bought recently is the speaker course, learning how to be a public speaker. Like I could see myself one day talking on stage about.
I've got
I
a
think it'd be
friend.
more about mindset, but
I've got
yeah,
a friend who he's in like a. It sounds quite similar. He's in like a. I guess he works for a company basically, but he it is. I mean, to be honest, this is a Ponzi scheme. Like he's selling me access to this course,
right,
education platform, application, and to be fair to him, like he's obviously doing really well in it. Like obviously, I hate the word Ponzi's anyway, but like when you first get approached to it, you're like, oh, that's,
like a
obviously,
cult. It's a
yeah, it's a
scam. It's
pyramid.
whatever.
Like
Yeah,
the
pyramid scheme. Yeah,
company you're all being paid on the fact that you are paid to recruit, basically.
yeah,
Um, I don't think it's necessarily a bad business idea, and I think actually what they're putting out in content, this crypto related, is quite good. But he's exactly the same as you. He's now doing talks on stages, like hundreds of people. He's been doing it for a few years. I think it's classed as a high earner effectively in there. And I follow him. I've not done the course or anything yet because I'm.
So with progressive, right? I've been up until this last one. I've been to 4 events for free.
Yeah.
I think I maybe paid like 30 odd quid once, and it's just my travel and my accommodation. But other than that, I haven't paid anything. I've just been
Where'd
hitting
you
the free
stay? Did you
events
stay in
because it's
Peterborough then?
I stay in Peterborough in this woman's house. Both
Mate,
2 times when I've been down, I've stayed for 3. I know, mate. I know I could have stayed at you. Oh God, I'm
it's
kicking myself
40
now. But
minutes.
the next time I'm coming down, I think it's going to be the 6th of September. If that rings a bell, it's either the 6th of September or 6th of October. That's when I want to next come down.
You'll have to let me know anyway. I'll definitely come
I
along
will.
with you and
But
just come and stay here.
100%, get another mic and we'll do the
Oh
episode.
yeah, we could do the first episode.
Yeah,
That'd
do
be
it, man.
wicked.
Do it.
I don't know.
I think we've got time.
I've still got loads to do in terms of like knowledge and stuff like that. Like I don't.
don't
This
think
is
so,
quite
mate.
good
Just
because
do it.
you've got the 2 cameras, haven't you? So like you're where you
Well,
are,
yeah.
so it's quite. It looks good on
Oh,
YouTube.
right, yeah.
Whereas I
But
think
imagine this though. Imagine this though, right? So if we're sat next to each other, I could have my phone as camera 1, you could have your phone as camera 2, and then maybe use Laura's phone as a double cam, like over
yeah,
that sees both of it, and just do it like that.
yeah,
And
or
then
a
still record it
laptop,
on
I
this
guess,
app.
would work, wouldn't it?
Laptop would work.
And
Yeah.
does Riverside? I feel like we've come off proper tea now, and but does Riverside
That's
change between the
I
two?
I don't think so. It might just kind of. So if you had more than 2 cameras, I think you would have like maybe a black box or something like that would be in the place of like your 4th camera. You know what I mean? I don't think it would look very good. However, you can have basically you download all 3 clips and then you put them into an auto switcher app, which uses AI
Yeah,
to then
that's
just
what I
switch
saw.
automatically
Yeah,
between the
so
camera
basically,
angles.
like if you're
Yeah.
both talking, it goes to both of them. If like you're laughing,
Exactly.
it goes to both of them, and then as soon
Yeah.
as I start talking or whatever, it changes to me. Like it's mad.
Yeah.
I mean, editing has definitely got a lot easier, which is good for. It sounds like you don't like
100%.
editing either, so I don't.
No, I hate it. I hate it. And the thing is, with Riverside as well, it's super easy. You literally go through and you can highlight the words. So it's got the transcript to the left of the screen, and you can delete words, and it takes it automatically out the video. So if you say or like or too much, you can highlight filler words and remove all the filler words as well.
Really,
It's like that.
I think
one
I do. I
click,
say
yeah.
quite a lot.
So easy. No, I don't think so. I don't think you have.
I was thinking
But I
about
can
that.
remove them if you want.
I was thinking about that, like, because I've always
Like's a
I've
big
always
one,
said
yeah.
it, but I did when I was watching one of them. I thought something had been edited because sometimes it sort of clips a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's likely. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I've said something stupid, or sometimes it's just like me. I go. I like that a lot. You know what I mean? I go, and then I done this. So like, I just take all them out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's quite good then. It helps the people that like us that are struggling to get our words out.
This is it, and this is it, and this is kind of what I'm trying to get out of this the speaker course. I think it's going to help us in all avenues. So not only is it going to help us for my podcast, it's going to help us for my social media, but on top of that, speaking to an investor. So if I'm actually going out trying to like get some money or receive like whatever it is, speaking to professionals,
Yeah.
being able to actually formulate sentences correctly and having like a good strategic plan of a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, these things you don't even learn about. Like I just kind of just bumble my way through life not thinking about these things when actually there's a way to do things. There's a way to actually communicate effectively.
It's like
with
a
people.
phone voice, isn't it? I suppose it always goes back to that.
Yeah,
Like we funny story. I was in my hairdresser's the other day, and this Jamaican bloke comes in, like vest on, like obviously I'm not going to try and do his accent, but like real Jamaican, like, and he then picks up the phone and he's like, "Oh, hello there," like really British. Like I'm sat there and I just literally turned around. He was like, "Yes, I'll be back in 20 minutes," like this, and I was like, "What? Where did that come from?" But yeah,
Right,
no,
that's it, man.
no, it's cool, man. Yeah, I think you've
Yeah, really cool.
yeah, I've enjoyed it.
It sparked interest then, yeah, definitely.
100%, mate. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've been out and bought this
Good.
bloody microphone, so Laura's like, "You better do something with that now." So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, well, if I'm trying to think, I don't know, maybe plug your social media, tell people where they can find you, and then I'll put everything in the description as well.
Yeah, so obviously my pub is called the Leagate Inn. Instagram is the Leagate Inn. It's LEAGATEINN. And we've then got a Steep Hill project Instagram, which is literally 9 Steep Hill. We're more active on Instagram, I suppose, than Facebook, but the pub's on Facebook as well. And then my personal one, a lot of motorcycle racing at the minute. So if you're not interested in that, then
I certainly am.
and that's Harry, and that's at Harry Dennison _ I believe. So yeah, just feel free to check me out there.
Cool. I'm sure people will. I'll end the recording there then. Right,
All right,
thank you
mate.
so much for coming on, Harry. Thank you so much.
Nice to see you, brother.
Good to see you.
Cheers.